You're just using your 2 forks and you're slicing it in with the flour. Okay, now you got like this. Now you take your hand and you got to work it. Just gives them that nice crackery look. You can make them all triangles, right? It really depends on your sensibility. Even plain like this. They're really nice. Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and we're having soup tonight. We're having pea soup, and I want to make some crackers to go with the soup. Sure, you can buy crackers in the store, and they're not too expensive to buy, but if you've ever made homemade crackers, it's just a whole nother thing. Aside from them being cheaper to make than to buy, I suppose, they're just, they're different. They have a different texture, different feel, different flavor. Also because you can fine tune them. But really, just like if you're having soup and you make tea biscuits, it's almost like the tea biscuits are the star of the show. And I think it's the same thing with crackers. It's such a simple thing. The ingredients are very simple, but they're wonderful to have with a soup or anything like that. So let me show you. And there's lots of different ways to make crackers. This is the simplest recipe of the different ways I do it. I have a version I also do with sourdough. Maybe I'll do that in another video, but this one's just a simple one that anyone with basic ingredients can do. So here's what you need. You need just enriched white flour. You can use whatever flour you like, but I tend to use just the enriched white flour because it's so versatile. You need a little bit of sugar, a teaspoon of sugar. You need 1.5 cups of white flour, a teaspoon of sugar, a teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, a 1/4 cup of butter or lard or shortening or margarine, take your pick, and a 1/4 cup of cold water. So basically, we take our dry ingredients, 1.5 cups of white flour, get that going. This is really quick to do. Usually I turn the oven on and I like to have this all mixed and all ready to go before the oven reaches temperature. You want to have your oven at 415 Fahrenheit, okay? So there's a cup. And here's 1/2 cup. That's all the flour we need. We need a teaspoon of salt. That seems like a lot of salt, but these are saltine crackers, right? So they add that nice salty flavor. A teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Okay, that gives the crackers it helps them rise a little bit. It just gives them a nice flavor. And a teaspoon of sugar. Just gives them a nice, I've tried it without the sugar. It's better with the sugar. If you don't want to put sugar in it, don't put sugar in. Teaspoon of sugar. Salt, sugar, baking soda, flour. Okay, we got all that, and we just combine that a little bit. You notice I didn't sift the flour. I buy flour in these big bowls, right? It's pre-sifted. It's baker's flour. I get it, you get it in these 20 kilogram bags. If you want to sift your flour, go right ahead. I never bother. Okay. Every once in a while, there might be a lump of flour in something I make, but it's very rare. I just can't be bothered. Okay, I think the sugar and the baking soda and the salt are satisfactorily randomized. Now what you want is a 1/4 cup of some kind of fat, okay? It can be butter, it can be margarine, it can be shortening, it can be lard. I think the recipe actually calls for lard. I'm using this kind of vegan margarine stuff today. Trying to cut back on my cholesterol according to doctor's orders. So let's go with that. All right, so we got 1/4 cup of fat. You could even use bacon fat, I guess. Now I'm going to show you how I deal with this. I'm going to bring the camera in. All right, so all we're doing with this margarine here, fat or butter, whatever, is what's called cutting it in. You're just using your 2 forks and you're slicing it in with the flour, and you keep doing that until the flour takes on a kind of unique texture. It stops looking like flour and starts looking more like the beginnings of a pastry. Now there's fanciful tools you can use to do this. There's purpose-built tools for this. I thought I'd just use a fork, and I have a pastry cutter that I would normally use for something like this. But I thought I'd just use a fork to show that you know, if you haven't got all that gear. You know, I spent years as a starving student, and I would use basic things for everything. So I always like to mention that in my videos. So I never want anyone to feel like they can't do something because they don't have just the right gear. I think so much of the content out there is organized around trying to sell people stuff. And there's lots of things, kitchen tools, that are cool, that are handy, that make life easier. But a lot of them don't really do much. And a lot of them are a waste of money, and a lot of them end up in the garbage after you've owned them for 5 years and realize you hardly ever use them because they're not that useful. And man, you can do a lot with a fork. Okay, so now you can see it's got a bit of a texture to it, right? Almost looks like sand now, as opposed to a powder. Okay, now all we do is add a quarter cup of water. Okay, and same thing, we take our forks and just move that around very quickly. I try to get that water everywhere. Try to get it worked into the, you know, get the wet worked in with the dry. Doesn't take long. You'll see it's starting to get a texture, an even more grainy texture now. Almost looks like, I don't know, oats or something. You know, flaked oats, oatmeal. Dry, it looks like dry oatmeal a little bit. Okay, I think that's close enough. Okay, now again, you can use a food processor to do this, if it has the right attachment. Okay. Okay, now you got like this. Now you take your hand and you got to work it. You just start, you know, moving it around in the bowl, punching your fist in there, right? Getting out all your frustrations. Okay, and you're just working it. And it shouldn't take long. It's a great thing to get your kids to do, or if you're getting older and you got a little arthritis, something to do when the grandkids are over. I guarantee you, if you got grandkids, they're going to love these crackers. Every time I make these, we have to hide them after whatever the leftovers are, because no one can stay out of them, because they're just so satisfying. All right, so this is very dry. Okay. But I think it'll work. You know, it never hurts. This is actually feeling a little bit, I don't know, it's borderline. It's feeling a little bit dry to me. I'm going to add like a teaspoon of water. And I mean a teaspoon. Just a little bit. Just because it felt a little like it wasn't holding together. The ball should hold together. So never feel shy about, and you follow the recipe to the letter. But sometimes when you measure your water, you know, even though I used a liquid measure, sometimes it's just a little low or a little high. And with small amounts like this, it can matter. Okay, so you just work it with your hands. Again, if this is a TV show, we just cut that out and everything would seem to work perfectly. But this is how things work when you're home cooking. You make adjustments. All right, so we got this all mixed up, and it feels good. If when you're doing this, it like you're moving it around your hands and pieces of it are falling off. You know, after doing this for like a minute or two, and pieces are falling off, break it open, put it back in the bowl, add a teaspoon of water, and re-massage it. And just keep doing that until pieces aren't falling off. Okay, it should hold itself together. Okay, now you can roll it out now, but I find it behaves better if you let it rest for about 15-20 minutes, which is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put it in the bowl here. And cooking shows are always covering stuff in saran wrap. Just stick another bowl on top of it like that. Save you some plastic, right? All right, so I'm just gonna leave it like that for 15 minutes. I'll be back in a little bit. All right, so we've let this rest, and now it's time to try to roll this out. You know, so much of working with dough and flour, any sort of thing like this where you gotta roll it out, just that resting time makes a huge difference. And the trick with all this stuff is you don't want it too wet, and you don't want it too dry, right? And it just takes a little practice. So all I'm going to do here is just working this around until it's kind of a flat patty by hand. All right. I mean, this would be really easy if you've got a pastry cutter, which I do. You can just roll it through, and it saves a lot of work. And that's, ordinarily, that's how I do it for just ease. Because, you can get one of those things for like 50, 60 bucks on Amazon or whatever, and save you a lot of work over time. But if you don't have that, no big deal. Okay, so I just flattened it out by hand a little bit there. And now I take a rolling pin. You can use a wine bottle for this. You don't need a rolling pin. Okay, this takes a little bit of strength, a little bit of effort. But you're going to roll this out till it's maybe like, I don't know, half a centimeter thick. What's that, like a 3/16 of an inch, something like that. It should, see how mine's staying together? Let me bring the camera in and show you a bit closer what I'm doing here. You see how it's not fraying to pieces at the edges? I mean, a little bit, right? But that's okay. And even a little bit more fraying is okay. But it shouldn't be completely falling apart when you're rolling it out like this. It should be kind of staying together like a pizza. And you're just going from the middle and push down and roll out. Okay? Put your weight on there. Right? This is not going to, this takes a little bit of physical effort. So don't think it's going to happen very quickly. It just depends on how physically strong you are and how much you put into it. But I'm putting some of my weight onto this, right? I'm putting it on, I'm going like this, and I'm putting my weight on it. Okay? Again, if you've got some sort of problem like arthritis or whatever, I would get a, if you can afford it, I get a noodle maker, pasta maker. It's got a roller you can just put these things through, and it makes all this stuff unbelievably easy. All right, but if you're got great wrists, strong hands, and you like exercise, you just do it like this. All right, I think that's enough. All right, let me just get a little bit organized here. I'll show you the next step. All right, next step is just to arrange it on a pan. I got a dry pan here, that's all you need. Now, just for the sake of making your crackers look cool, you can put little holes on them, like using a fork. Yeah, just so I don't do this on the counter, I'll do it here, just so I don't scratch my counter up too bad. And you just hold it down. It just gives them that nice crackery look. These are going to be, I mean, you can roll this out as much as you want. Okay, you can make them thinner and thinner and thinner. I mean, really, I roll it out. Again, I would normally use my pasta maker for this, but you roll it out till you're tired of rolling it out. The fact that it's a thicker cracker, no one is going to mind. Okay, because they have such a nice taste. It almost tastes like shortbread, but it's not as fattening, not as sugary. Okay, here we go. Now, I mean, there's lots of different ways you can cut these out, right? Like you can use an old soup can like this and make perfect little circles, and work yourself into an anal retentive paradise. If that. But I usually don't bother doing that, even though these do look really cool. Maybe for company or something like that. For my family, I usually just use this kind of cutter, and I just make these random shapes, right? I just cut it up because it's fast, and no one's going to care, right? And that way you don't have to, these little bits that are left over, I gotta re-roll that into something. It's, you know, like the dough doesn't want to be re-rolled. These little leftover bits are kind of these leftover bits are a liability. So I would only, you know, bother cutting them into circles if you were really trying to impress someone, like you had a hot date, or you know, first time entertaining the in-laws, or or whatever, right? Trying to show off to your neighbors, something like that. Just make our little boop, 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 right? But otherwise, you know, for me, if it's just for family, I just cut them up like that, okay? Because it's just so much more expedient, right? And they're all different sizes. It's got a kind of random element to it. These are great hiking food too, because unlike normal crackers, like the store-bought ones, these don't break. They're not fragile, right? They're almost like a ship's biscuit, right? Something like along those lines. But yeah, the shape, you can make them all triangles, right? It really depends on your proclivities, your sensibility. Okay, now we just arrange them all on the cookie sheet. All right, just got them all in there. I can just tell when my kids see those perfect circle crackers, that's the way they're going to want them forever. They do look really cool. Isn't it funny how the shape of things affects your experience of eating them, just like color does as well? I mean, smell does, yes, but the shape and color really does affect palatability. All right, that's all ready to go. The last thing, even though we got salt in there, you just sprinkle a little bit of salt on top of them. Hopefully those little holes you made give the salt a place to go. Just make some little extra salt. Again, these are to go with a soup, so you know, they just add a little bit of that extra hit of flavor with your soup. Okay, those are ready to go in the oven. Put these in the oven at 415 for 5 to 8 minutes. I always leave them in for 8 minutes. All right, so we'll see you in 8 minutes. Alexa, set timer, 8 minutes. All right, so it's been 8 minutes. Let's have a look at what we got here. Man, that oven's hot. Not using a proper oven mitt, as always. All right, here we go. All right, so you can't smell it, but the whole house has this baking smell. Just this lovely, homey, comforting, nice baking smell. I'm just going to put one of these aside so it'll cool down a little faster. Maybe I'll have one of these circle ones because they look so nice. So you want to get these cooled down, and I wouldn't put them in a container right away. After you make these, leave them out. Ideally put them on a rack or something like that. But they need to just air off, right? There's still moisture inside of them. And if you put them in a container right away, they'll lose their crispiness. So you got to leave them out for a couple hours and then put them in a container. And then they'll stay reasonably crispy. These are not going to be crumbly, crispy the way that store-bought crackers are. I'm sure there's some way to make them so that they have that property, but I like them like this. So I don't, perhaps there's just some variation on the recipe. Perhaps you have to take extra steps, or maybe it's an ingredients thing, but I don't really care. Let me show you up here nice and close. So yeah, it looks like a little biscuit, right? It's not, doesn't crunch when you break it in half. Okay, it's almost like, it looks like a shortbread cookie. It's really, very simple, right? But I don't know why. It must be a combination of the salt and the sugar and the fact that it's baked. But even plain like this, they're really nice. Or with a soup or something like this, or even with a bit of jam, like strawberry jam, a little bit of tea, perfect afternoon snack. Right? I don't know why I like these so much. But my whole family loves them. They're really simple. You can see there's a bit of a texture there, right? Flakiness. Okay. Anyway, that's how I make crackers. I mean, you can make a bigger recipe. It's probably a good idea to make bigger recipes, but I find for like 4 or 5 or 6 people, this is enough to satisfy everyone around the table, unless they're real cracker hogs. Right? You can just imagine this divided into quadrants. Who's going to need that many crackers, right? I'm always amazed in a restaurant. They give you like 4 little crappy crackers with your soup. I need about, I don't know, 16 crackers with the soup. I always like putting bread, crackers. I always want something on my soup. Anyway, if you had never tried making crackers before, this is a wonderful thing to do. It's a wonderful thing to do with kids. It really, a simple weekday soup, even if it's out of a can, okay? You put this with that soup, and all of a sudden, everybody's happy about supper. And it's not hard to do. I mean, it takes maybe 5-10 minutes to mix up, a few minutes in the oven, and they're done. So it's a really quick, easy way to just turn the notch up on a weekday meal and just make it, or even a Sunday dinner if you're going to make a really nice, like we have pea soup sort of thing, right? Just makes it so enjoyable. So hope you found this interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Until next time, get out there, get at it. Have fun in your garden, have fun in your kitchen. Thanks for watching. Hey, do you like getting free shipping? Then go to Vessies.com to buy whatever you need for your garden this year and use my coupon code GAVS24 to get free shipping as long as there's a pack of seeds in the order and there's no oversized items. Check out the description box of this video for details. You can buy everything you need from Vessies. They have seeds, fruit bushes and trees, soil amendments, pest solutions, tools, clothing, and lots of other stuff too. So yeah, if you want to help support everything I'm doing here and you like free shipping and they sell something you need, buy it from them and use my coupon code. Happy gardening!